Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to the Plays with Cars YouTube channel, and in this video we are headed to the Portland Auto Swap Meet for 2024. Let's go! Alright, so this is a change from normal. In the past years you haven't been able to get through here, and now we're going to be able to go park at the Expo Center. So in the past this has been a one-way for those buses that would take everybody back and forth to events. But this year they've changed the lower parking area at the Expo to open up 1,400 parking spaces for people to park at the Expo and made this a two-way. This is a much needed change. This is good. Alright, so we are here at the Portland Auto Swap Meet, and I have with me John, Mike, and Dave, who are all volunteers on the committee, and you guys run one of the swap meets, right?
Yes, correct.
Right. Okay, so some of my viewers are going to know this, but probably not all of you. There's two swap meets in Portland at the same time every year. There's one over at the racetrack put on by PIR, and then there's one here at the Expo Center. And Mike was telling me this is entirely volunteer, correct?
Yes. Totally.
How many volunteers put on the event every year?
400. We are comprised of 6 car clubs who remarkably have formed this swap meet 58 years ago and continue to get along. So if you can imagine the normal banter between my Chevy is cooler than your Cadillac, we don't have any of that. I literally don't even know the club affiliation for many of my coworkers out here, nor do I care. We just want the swap meet to be successful, to support the hobby, and for this to continue. The people that came before us worked very hard to establish it. We need to work equally hard to maintain it.
Okay.
In fact, maybe harder because the situation has changed with the internet.
Absolutely, absolutely. As I'm sure all of you are aware, you can pull a device out of your pocket and buy just about anything, just about any time. So what makes the swap meet special? Why do people want to come here?
Go ahead.
No.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of it's social. Over the 50 years, everybody's made friends. And I mean, you only see their friend once a year here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think part of it's social, part of it's coming for an experience that's different. So now we've got a whole generation that's grown up on phones, computers, and everything else. They're not used to being able to touch things and everything else. So it's kind of cool to come out here and see an engine block in person versus on the computer screen and everything else. So there's that kind of nuance. So it's almost like you're turning over a whole new generation, trying to get them out here to experience real physical things and how they can be put together and how they can enjoy the hobby.
Oh, there's your example. You
Right.
brought your kids in.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to lead into that. But John, what you said really resonates with me. I obviously bring my kids along to this swap meet. It's been a big important part of this. And one of the things for me as a parent and as a car person to teach my kids is we walk around and you point at all these random things and start, oh, hey, that's a Mustang, that's a Camaro, this is a big block, this is a small block, this is what the differences are, because you could see them side by side, right there on an engine stand. And so that is a fantastic plus to having a swap meet. It is absolutely an experience. It's not an experience you're going to get anywhere else.
Sure.
So how many vendors do you guys have roughly ballpark this year?
1,000 vendors.
1,000 vendors?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have about 2,500 stalls for this year. Not all sold. Most of them are sold on the outside, and so we have around 1,000.
Okay. And we've already done a little bit of filming and talked about this on the video already. One of the big changes for this year, of course, was changing all of the lower outside areas into parking. How much parking did that add, and what prompted that change?
Well, let Mike answer that one, because he's a statistic guy there.
And that's a good thing. 1,400 spots. We looked at, as you pointed out in your video last year, we were having trouble filling the lower lots, 8,000 or 9,000. Once that starts to occur, it feeds on itself, and pretty soon the perception is that this is no more, even when it's still viable. So before that happened, we decided that we needed to ask vendors what they thought. To do that, we had several mailings of about 900 at a time to seek some advice and counsel from our vendor customers about what is troubling them, what is stopping them from being more successful. The number one comeback was on-site parking. So before that, we either shuttled people on buses, school buses, from Portland Meadows when we had that, or down the road at Broadacres as part of PIR. So 50 people a bus takes a lot of buses. Buses are increasingly expensive, and the vendors suggested we would do better if we had on-site parking. So that's a big change. It's a seismic change. That's not evolutionary. That's revolutionary for the people that lived and participated down there for years.
Can I lean in on that for a minute?
Absolutely.
When you talk about Portland Meadows, we used to have on-site or off-site parking. So we really were the only one of the swap meets in the United States that have vendor stalls just for vending. So all these spots were filled. You couldn't bring and park your personal car and then sell, buy a stall. So every stall in here was for vending, not for the purpose of parking. And so we had Portland Meadows where we parked people, and that was our parking lot. We had to pay for that, rent that out for the weekend. We shuttled people in, and then we shuttled people from PIR working with them. 2019, after 2019, the last year we had a swap meet before COVID, Portland Meadows was sold, bulldozed, and now there's an Amazon warehouse. And so we lost that parking. So headed into 2020, we had a plan on how to deal with that. And we were working with PIR, and we were trying to figure out how we're going to put, because we parked 1,000 cars there a day. We're up until 2 weeks of the event, we thought we had a plan, and then we were shut down because of COVID. It's not 1 year, but 2 years. So when we restarted up in 2022, we literally had no idea. PIR had a new manager. The plan had changed slightly. We thought we were going to have a great plan, and it worked as far as filling parking down at PIR, but the shuttling people in got really slow. And COVID did take care of probably about 20-25% of our vendors just never came back from COVID. So that started it, not blaming COVID, but it absolutely increased it. So we had the double. We got hit with losing our parking. That was our lot, and then got hit with COVID all at the same time, and then started up the swap meet. So I just wanted to interject that that's also one reason why it was leading towards that lower lot being turned into parking.
Okay. What kind of feedback have you gotten so far from vendors or participants about the changes? I know you guys were open all day yesterday.
I would ask Mike because he's gone out and interviewed a lot of those people, so he'll have a better answer.
This year we're actually conducting an interview with customers and vendors. I'll show you that to you, show you where that's headed. Most of it's been positive. Yesterday was a lot of frustration in the first 2 hours. You'll be shocked to learn the first time you try to move 1,000 cars, you may have some traffic issues, which we did. It's much smoother today. Our Expo folks that run that down there learned from yesterday, and as did we. So once we got over the initial frustration of arrival,
And the learning curve that it took to get there.
and before the show opened, there's 2 gates that lead from the parking lot. So we put the ticket stand outside the fence, into the parking lot, where they can buy tickets and queue up. And when we swing the gates when we open, all they have to do is show their ticket and they enter. So within about 20-25 minutes of opening the gate, we could have 1,500 customers in the stalls looking at what's going on. The same thing happened at the bus gates, where we held people, let them arrive when they wanted, held them until opening. So that got down. But to answer your question directly, when we had all those people lined up, queued to come in, I just went down there and started walking the line and talking to customers. How long did it take you to get here? What do we need to do better? What was your experience? And we've collected that, and that's going to be used actively as a feedback loop to fix what we don't know. But the problem is if we don't ask that question, if we're not curious enough and vigilant enough to ask that question, we're going to do what we did last time, and it could easily be ineffective, causing concerns and problems, and have people walk away. We don't want anybody to walk away. We need to preserve the hobby, and the way that's going to happen is if we treat people the way they should be treated.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me today and talking to me about what's going on here at the swap meet. Is there anything else you guys like to
I
share?
would like to introduce one thing.
Absolutely.
And I apologize for holding back on that. There's two swap meets, and in some ways we're in competition for customers, for thought processes, but absolutely and totally we're codependent on each other. We need to work together. We need to agree on what we're going to do, or what the goals are, and we need to move forward. This year we cooperated much more fully on buses and traffic than we have formerly. We have much more work to do to work well together, and if we don't work well together, we are impacting the likelihood of our success. And they understand that, we understand that. We have a bunch of things we can do in the near term. We could share advertising. As you know, many people don't understand that this is two events.
Two separate events.
Yes, and
Yeah.
people need to know that. But more importantly, when you think about it, these are two pretty good sized auto swap meets. Together, we're the largest auto swap meet west of the Mississippi.
I'd say we're the largest. Together, combined, we're the largest two in the United States. It's happening at the same time.
So we need to act like it. We need to work together and promote what we're talking about and support each other when we can and do those things. And we're on that path. Their PIR is cooperating and we're learning to cooperate.
Yeah, it's definitely a mutually beneficial relationship. As you guys know, I've been
If
coming
one
to
of
this
us
almost
goes
20
away,
years.
it's going to have a huge impact on the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you that most of the people that I talk to on a regular basis or watch these videos or comment stuff, most of them go to both swap meets, and that's part of the draw of it, is that there is two events, and they do serve different communities, different customers, different things. You know, if you're building a race car and you're looking for a race car project, that's mostly at the racetrack. If you're building a hot rod or a muscle car, that's mostly over here. And there's definitely overlap, but you know, being that there is a different focus, being that there is two very different experiences, PR is entirely outside. So, boy, when it's a great weather weekend, they fill up. When it's a bad weather weekend, everybody's over here, you know. But it is definitely a symbiotic relationship, and so it's really good to hear from a customer standpoint that you guys are working well together and looking forward to changes in the future, and not change just for the sake of change, the changes that need to happen to keep this a going concern, because it is such an important thing as an event.
Yeah. And another thing I think that's really hurts this hobby, as far as the swap meet is concerned, is our outlying hotels and what they charge people to come and spend the night. I mean,
It's a perception of Portland and then
well,
people
and
feeding
the
off of that.
homeless
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nobody can deny it. Portland has been going through a really rough phase, especially the last couple of years, and that definitely affects things. I think the one positive to that we have here at PIR and the Expo Center is we are close enough to the river and close enough to Vancouver that it's really not that big a deal to encourage people to stay on that side of the river and just pop over the bridge to get here.
We have lost quite a few vendors from out of state, that from smaller communities where their home base is, that they just don't feel comfortable, they don't understand. We're all kind of immune to it because we live in it every day. We don't like it, you know, we want to look for solutions for it. They absolutely just won't come anymore. So until it gets fixed, and I think it impacts us more so than at PIR, because PIR, you can camp there. You can camp on sites, you can protect everything. But the last couple of years, we've had people, you know, brand new things stolen from hotels, and they just not coming back. So.
Well, hopefully the Portland City Council sees this video and makes changes the way that you guys saw our video last year and made changes.
Yeah,
Right.
that's all we can.
Here is to draw from them information that we could use to make things better in the future. So this is the vendor one, and this is just a simple DBA that's part of Excel. We put it together in about 4 hours. If we find this useful, we'll develop a real app that's a little more robust.
Come on, we'll put some more recipe. I mean, it's not that far home, Dad. I like the color.
Cut to the nitty gritty.
All right, so we are done with the swap meet at the Expo Center. As you saw from the B-roll footage, much improved compared to last year. Opening up that lower area for parking really helped with access for everybody, and also consolidated all the vendors outside into, so you don't have these big deserts of no vendors. There were a few empty stalls here and there for sure, still not 100% capacity by any means, but much improved compared to 2023. Is it pre-pandemic? No, but I don't think anything ever will be, especially not something like a swap meet. But definitely, like, the changes have been positive, well worth it, and I think that they're going the right direction. Now we're here at the racetrack, you can see, to check out the swap meet here at this location, which last year was about ho-hum, same as normal, and we'll see what this year brings. All right, and that's going to do it for the PIR swap meet as well. The weather's really starting to turn, and well, we're a little tired, done a lot of walking. As far as how the PIR one went, it's about the same as last year. Some empty spaces out in the far reaches, but really full in the pit area, the paddocks and all that, which is pretty normal. Pretty good project cars here. Some of the prices are high, but some of them are all right, depending on what you're looking for. All right, so that's gonna do it. Conclusions. Is the swap meet worth going to? Well, that depends on what kind of experience it is you're looking for. If you are searching or hunting for like a very specific part or parts for a very specific car, unless it's something older, and I do mean older, we're talking like 70s or earlier, and fairly common, you're probably not gonna find it. And even if you do, it's probably gonna be pretty high priced. if you're looking for anything 80s and newer, it's very few and far between. We saw a few Fox body Mustangs and some parts for them, a couple of 80s G bodies. That's about it. There's definitely nothing 2000s. There's nothing 2010s. There's nothing for newer cars like that. Fuel injection stuff was few and far between, for example. So, you know, you really have to like temper your expectations of what it is you're looking for. That said, if you're a fan of just all sorts of cars and all eras and seeing stuff that you in person that you wouldn't really see ever, you know, like cylinder heads laying out for all sorts of different V8s where you could really look at the differences between them and stuff, like that's pretty cool. And being able to see that is a lot of fun. And, you know, it could be a lot of fun just to kind of look at project cars and poke around and see, you know, what's out there. And maybe you do want something new. So, you know, it really depends on what kind of experience you're looking for. As far as entertainment goes, $10 a person to get into the Expo Center, $10 a person to get into the PIR. It really isn't that expensive. The fact that that's where the price has been still is pretty amazing. The changes that have been made, especially on the Expo side and the traffic side with parking and whatnot, is definitely a huge plus. Again, neither event was sold out. Neither event has been sold out in years and years and years. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen them sold out. But consolidating all of the vendors to where you don't have these vendor deserts was a fantastic change. All right, so suggestions for next year. Honestly, I think on the Expo side, they've got a good handle on it. That traffic change was a big deal. The parking change was a big deal. And I'm excited to see what other changes they have going forward. I would suggest this would be a great time to reach out to vendors to try to get newer vendors into the swap meet. Especially aftermarket companies. You've got an entire inside hall basically that could be filled with these, you know, the big trucks and trailers and stuff. They could be selling the new car parts. You know, where's your ECS tuning? Where's your FCP Euro? You know, where are your places like that that could totally be in here? Local companies. Where's Baxter? You know, things like that. As far as the PIR side goes, you know, it's a different vibe, and you're going to get different stuff there. And I think, frankly, the vendors they had there were fine. There's more tchotchkes and knickknacks and stuff out that way than there is in the Expo. Surprisingly, it's usually the other way around. I do have some suggestions for the PIR side, though. Outside of just, you know, as we talked with the guys earlier about Portland City Council, hopefully making some changes with the homeless and, you know, all of the graffiti and the issues just outside of the location. But the PIR swap meet itself, there's a couple things I want to touch on. One is Portland International Raceway is a park. It is a city park. And as a racer and somebody that goes to that track and that park all the time to participate in events, we know it's no smoking. And there's signs everywhere, and we self-police, and we don't have any problems with that. To see the number of people smoking that I saw today is unfathomable, especially with PIR security driving all over the place. You guys really need to get a handle on that. The other thing is political flags and appointments. There weren't that many of them, but to see the ones that have curse words on them in a public park at an event that you're bringing children to, that's really shouldn't happen. I don't care if it's an election year. I don't care whose side you're on. That kind of stuff is not okay, especially at a public park and at a public event that has children and families involved. Pack it up. But I'm going to leave it off there. The event, I think, again, from an entertainment standpoint, is still totally worth going, especially, you know, if you're like me and you've got some kids and you want to teach them things about cars and show them car parts and engines and talk about how superchargers work and stuff like that. It's a fantastic time for not a lot of money. The kids get in free. You know, it's a good day of walking around. If you're actually looking to buy stuff, probably not going to find what you're looking for unless you're looking for, like I said, really specific, that 50s through the 60s, maybe 70s stuff. You know, for Chevy Ford, you know, a little bit of Mopar, you might find it. But yeah, saw like 2 AMCs the whole time, stuff like that. Nothing for 80s Porsches, nothing for 2000s Audis, things like that. But it would be really nice to see some newer vendors come in. It would be really nice to see some more newer car stuff coming in, because frankly, that's the kind of thing that most people are shopping for these days. So anyways, that's been the Plays with Cars YouTube channel. That's been the PIR and Expo Center swap meets for 2024, and we'll see you in the next video.